Hi guys, Patrick here with Gold Kilns USA. Man, crazy times we're living in. COVID-19, pandemics. What a crazy world. Anyhow, what we're looking at here today is this is a couple of the quick kiln 6s. This one over here is a regular melting kiln, and this one over here is a cupelling kiln. And what I'm going to show you is something I've been working on for a while. What I have right here is a cone. It's gold. It's a conglomeration of a lot of experiments and little buttons and stuff. And I don't remember, there's 20 or 25 grams of this here. But it's not real pure. It's probably 600, maybe 650 fine, a little over half gold, and some other base metals and stuff. So when you get into this kind of a size and this type of a thing, you know, it'd be nice to get a little bit pure, and it's difficult to do. You can't just throw that into nitric acid and think that it's going to purify it, because all it'll do is the nitric acid will only work on the surface here, and then pretty soon you'll get the base metals out of the surface. Then it creates an armor where the nitric acid can't get to, and so the inside of it's still impure. And you know, trying to dissolve it in aqua regia and then reprecipitate the gold, gee whiz. So what I've developed is I've developed a method utilizing a couple of these little quick kiln 6s to where I can take this 20 or 25 gram button here and purify the heck out of it by using a litharge flux, which this orange colored flux is right here. And that's not all complex in itself, but it's really difficult to control the size of the lead prill. And here's a lead prill right here. This is basically lead. It's reduced litharge to metallic lead. And this weighs about, I can't remember, 35 grams. And so to control the size of your lead prill, when you're using litharge, you have to add flour, a carbon source, and blah, 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 blah. It just gets to be really complex. Well, what I've done is I've developed a method using the reducing power of a clay graphite crucible. And the clay graphite crucible creates a reduction environment when it's being fired. It's a reducing environment. And so I've come up with a method of using litharge with a reducing environment inside of a clay graphite crucible that will allow this gold button here to be dissolved into the lead, which will only grab the precious metals and leaves the base metals alone in the flux. Now what happens is when you combine these two sizes here, which would be 20 or 25 grams of gold and 30 or 35 grams of lead, you have basically a lead prill that is much too large for a conventional cupel. Well, the quick kiln 6 cupelling kiln can take a Maybor number 12 cupel, and this cupel will hold approximately 300 grams of lead. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a given amount of the litharge flux. We're going to put it into a reducing environment along with the gold bead here, and we're going to let the lead do its magic inside of there without adding a carbon source. We're simply going to use the reduced environment created by the clay graphite crucible, and then we'll cupel it off, and this 20 or 25 gram gold button here will become a smaller button, but it will be much purer. And you know, it's a hell of a lot more simple than going through all of the other ways to do it. And this works pretty good. And you know, if it gets to be a Mad Max world out there, something like this might be kind of useful to you. So we're going to take our litharge flux in a given amount in the proportions that I mix myself into there. We're going to throw this gold bead into the crucible. We're going to melt it. We're going to end up with a single prill, and then we're going to take the prill and use the cupel with the Quick Kiln 6 cupelling kiln and convert the lead prill into litharge, let it go into the cupel, end up with a great big old gold bead. So that's what we're going to do here today. And get this thing started off with, I'm going to mix a given amount of flux with this gold button here, throw it in this clay graphite crucible, fire it. I'll show you melting it, pouring it into the conical shaped mold. Then we'll look and see how big our button comes out, our prill comes out. Then we'll switch over and we'll cupel it off. Should be kind of interesting, should be kind of fun. So, hang on, I'll get things set up and I'll get back to you. Okay guys, I'm back. Where we're at is in here. I don't know if you can see that or not from where I'm at, but anyhow, there's 70 grams of a litharge flux mix, and basically in that 70 grams of flux there's 49 grams of lead oxide, PbO. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to dump about half of it in there. I'm going to drop that piece of gold button in there, and we're going to dump that lead flux into our crucible. So what we're going to do is, theoretically there's 49 grams of lead in there that could be precipitated out of that litharge, and where we're going to end up with, it's kind of a crapshoot at this time, but anyway, I'm going to explain this a little bit better at the end of it. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and light our furnace. Today we're just using propane. Don't need any MAP gas for this. So let's go ahead and fire up our furnace. We'll put our crucible in, let it warm up a little bit, and we'll stack the kiln up. And we'll go ahead and let it melt. And then we'll pour it into the conical mold here, which needs to be wiped out. It's been sitting outside here for a little bit. So anyway, here we go. Let's fire up our furnace. There's one. There's two. And while it's warming up, I'm going to put our crucible in and let the crucible warm up as the kiln starts to warm up. Once again, that helps to minimize the thermal shock that occurs when you put a room temperature crucible in a real hot environment. So they're warming up together and it's easier on your crucible. So that is a clay graphite crucible, and clay graphite, obviously the graphite is a carbon source. So the carbon source that's in the crucible in the reducing environment is going to reduce the lead from litharge, PbO, to metallic lead. The precious metals will dissolve into the lead. The base metals and the undesirables will stay in the flux. So let's just round it off and say we got 50 grams of lead available, roughly, and we put 20 or 25 grams of metal in with it. So theoretically, we could precipitate a prill of half a 25, let's say it was 20, so we could actually produce a 60-gram prill. That's way too big for a conventional cupel. The Maybor is a big cupel, and so the size of it is immaterial at this time because this is going to hold everything. So anyhow, step one was to add the litharge flux and the gold to the crucible. I'll let it warm up, and it is warming up pretty fast. Propane's plenty good enough for this. We don't need MAP gas. And I'll go ahead and stack this middle ring on there. And I'll go ahead and let it warm up. And I'll put the lid on. And I'm going to let it cook for a while, 15-20 minutes or so after it's melted and fluid. Then we'll pour it into that conical mold over there, and we'll see how big our final prill with the gold, etc., comes out. And then we'll go from there. Hang on, I'll get back to you. Hi guys, I'm back. Okay, so that's been melted for about 30 minutes, and I set the mold up on top there a little bit ago, so it'll warm up. It quit bubbling. It's all nice and still in that crucible. So the next step here is we'll set our mold off to the side. We'll go ahead and pour our prill, our charge out into that conical shaped mold. And then we'll let it cool down, and then after it's cooled down, we'll break the glass off of there and see how we did as far as the size of our prill. So anyhow, I adjusted the camera a little bit so you can see a little bit more where we're going to pour, and let's go ahead and do this. Mold off. Reach over here. Oh, plastic on the table. Bad deal. Remember that plastic. So, go ahead and lift the lid off. Lift the body off. And we're going to grab our crucible here. I'm going to tap it before I set it down and pour it. That knocks in with the floaty. That's a nice pour. Then I'm going to take a crucible and set over the top of that so that cools slow. And I'm going to set this crucible over here for a minute. Stack that kiln back up. And since we're done with it at this point, we'll just go ahead and shut it down. No sense wasting propane if we don't have to. So there we are. At this point, we added our litharge with our gold button in there. We let it melt and hold it in there for about 25-30 minutes. It stilled out real good in the crucible. All the bubbling stopped, and we poured our charge into our conical shaped mold. And go ahead and let this cool down so that we can knock the glass off our prill. I'll grab a little scale and bring it out here, and we'll weigh it, and we'll see how we done at that point. Hang on, I'll get back to you. Okay guys, I'm back. Let's see here. I took that crucible off of the top of the mold there. Let's tip this over. And see how we did. Oh, there we go. Okay, so here's our lead prill right here. Get over here where I can see the camera. And it's pretty good size, but inside of there, dissolved into that lead, is the gold and everything that was in that one cone-shaped button before. And it looks like it done a pretty good job. Pound on that a little bit so you can see that that's lead. Kind of shiny there. Get my hand out of there, a little light into it. Yeah, there we go. So let's weigh it. Oh, let me swing that over there a little bit better towards where the scale is. One-man band again. Okay, so we got 68 grams, 68.3 grams. So, theoretically, if everything did exactly like it was supposed to do, and everything, it would have been 50 grams. There should be 18 grams of gold in there, if you can balance everything out. But that's what we'll find out in the next steps. We'll take this prill. We'll put it on one of these Q-Pels here, just like so. On this Q-Pel, we'll put it in the KK6 Q-Peller. We'll Q-Pel the lead away, and we should be left with some really nice pure gold, relatively speaking. So hang on, and we'll get ready to set up, and we'll do the second part of this video here in just a little bit. Hang on, I'll get back to you. Hi guys, Patrick here again. Well, day 2 of the apocalypse. So anyway, yesterday we made this lead prill here, and what that was that we used the KK6. We put our flux, our litharge flux, and our gold button in there, and we melted it down, and with the idea of purifying it, and we poured this lead prill. So what we've got here today is we've got the quick kiln Q-Pelling kiln. It's KK6. It's been modified, and what we're going to do is we're going to change metallic lead here back to a lead oxide, which is litharge, which will get absorbed into this Q-Pel and leave our gold sitting up on top of this Q-Pel and not being dissolved into it. So our prill is going to go on top like so. It'll get oxidized and turn back into litharge, which will get absorbed by the Q-Pel and leave our precious metals there. And a little KK6, Quick Kiln 6, has a beveled ring that we'll put on here, and that opens up the flame and allows the atmospheric oxygen to hit the top of the Q-Pel and to convert this metallic lead back to a litharge. So the first step, obviously, is that we'll go ahead and put our Q-Pal in. I'll quit kicking the camera here pretty quick, I promise. And I better adjust it a little bit. There we go. So we're going to put our Q-Pal in on our pedestal in there. And we're going to center it. Pretty much just like so. Things are pretty tight here, but they need to be. So there sits our Q-Pal in there. We're going to put our prill on there, and then that's where the atmospheric oxygen will contact the surface of the burning pool of lead and convert it to litharge. So the first step, obviously, is get our torches lit. Using propane again, no MAP gas. And the wind's blowing, so I put this wind block up a little bit to try and keep the wind down. And anyhow, let's see if this will light. Apparently not that way. There. Okay, I got that one going. Reach over and light this one. And then we're going to put our ring on. And then we're going to go ahead and put our lid on. Now I'm going to let that warm up until it gets pretty orange inside. Adjust this camera a little bit. There. Until the inside of the kiln gets good and warm. And then we'll lift the lid off. We'll place our lead prill in, and then we'll go ahead and allow the process to take place. As this gets going, I probably will put my respirator on, and when I put my respirator on, I can't talk, but I'll get the camera and I'll try and get it down to that burning pool of lead so that you can see what it looks like when that's converting from metallic lead to litharge and everything. And so at any rate, once again, it's like I said, this is the Mad Max type thing. It's a quick and down dirty way to recover gold out of some lesser quality stuff. So I'll just punch this thing and let it hold until the kiln gets hot, and then I'll place everything in there and show you how it happens. So hang on, once again, I'll get back to you. Okay, so I'm back. Everything looks like it's warming up pretty good in there. So what the procedure is here is we're going to put the lead prill in. This little guy right here. We'll take the lid off, put the lead prill in, then we'll put the lid back on. And of course the lead's going to melt right away. And what we want to do is we want to hold it in there long enough until the scale, the residual flux and blah 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 kind of peels off to the side, and the lead gets really really hot, gets way above the melting temperature. And we'll watch it to make sure that the Q-Pal opens. And when it opens, basically what that means is that it's ready to convert from metallic lead back to a lead oxide, which is litharge. And then I'll remove the lid, and we'll take a look at it and we'll see how it's doing. If the Q-Pal remains open and goes ahead and starts to convert back to a litharge, then we're in good shape. If it wants to freeze, in other words solidify on the surface again, I'll have to put the lid back on until it gets hot again and it opens up. So it's kind of a tricky situation when you first get it started, but at any rate it's not impossible to do. When you get familiar with it, it's actually pretty easy. So here we go. We'll go ahead and put the prill in. There's the prill sitting in there. You can see how that flame opens up and that allows that atmospheric oxygen to go back down into the surface and contact the burning pool of lead. So here we go. We'll put the lid back on, and then we're just going to let it go until the cupel opens up. And like I explained, we started out with the lead oxide. We used the reducing environment of the clay graphite crucible to reduce the lead oxide to a metallic lead and dissolve the gold, etc., in the lead. So now what we're doing is we're reversing that procedure. We're taking metallic lead and converting it back into a lead oxide. And as you can see, the flame's kind of whipping around a little bit there because of the wind. And so that's not going to be the most ideal situation for cupelling, but it still works. It'll still be all right. Probably once it opens up and everything's working fine, probably 20 minutes, 25 minutes to finish the whole process. So, like I said, we are working with lead here, and theoretically 97% of that lead gets absorbed into the cupel. Maybe a little bit of it evaporates and vaporizes and goes into the atmosphere. It's not a big deal, but it's lead, and so I will wear a respirator once we get this thing going. And once it gets going pretty good, probably won't be able to say a whole hell of a lot until we get done with it. And like I said, I'll try and get some close-up shots, if I can, without melting the camera, and we'll go from there. So right now what we're waiting for is we're waiting for the cupel to get good and hot and for the cupel to open. And I mean, I can look in there right now, and that pool of lead is spinning around in there, and it's working really good. It's getting to where it's already started to open up, but I want it to get good and hot in there before I pull that lid off. So at any rate, I don't know if I could get a picture of that or not. It'd be pretty cool if I could. And what I'll do is I'll probably put this camera on a little handheld thing instead of the tripod here, and maybe try and get a shot of that. Hang on. Well, let's see. I'll tell you what I'm going to do is I'm just going to peel it off of this stand here, and I'm just going to pick it up and walk over here and see if I can get you a little shot down inside that furnace. Yeah, that's pretty hot. So I don't know how that turned out, but if we look down in there when this thing gets all done, and if I can see that pool of lead, what it's doing is it's spinning around on the inside there, and it's getting really good and hot, and it's starting to open up. So, and yeah, that camera got pretty hot in just that short of a time. So hang on. We'll just go through this process here, and let me get a little better set up. I'll get back. Hi guys. This is kind of funny. The cupel has opened up a couple of times, but every time I lift the lid off there, it wants to close again. And so I switched over to MAP gas. And I'll tell you why it's closing up, is that there's so damn much gold in there that it keeps freezing on the surface. It's kind of funny. So anyway, I got the MAP gas going on it. That ought to make it go all right. I'm gonna lift the lid off of here real quick for a second, and hopefully this thing is close enough to where you can kind of see what's going on inside of there. So I'm gonna take a big breath and hold my breath, and I'll get over here and I'm gonna lift the lid off of there, and you can see the smoke, the flame opening up, and what that is that's that metallic lead changing back to litharge. Maybe it'll stay open this time. Let's give it a try. might stay open. I don't know. It's trying. Once that exothermic reaction starts to take place itself, when the metallic lead converts back to litharge, it'll generate its own heat. And it looks like it's starting to do that. There's a little bit of a frozen surface there, but I'm going to watch it real close here. It's starting to, it looks like it looks like it might go. But there's so damn much gold in there that it's having a tough time keeping it hot enough. Now I can see that exothermic reaction taking place, and the surface is starting to open up and stay open again. You can see some of that crusty stuff up there that's kind of hanging on the surface there. But it looks like it's going to stay open this time. Thank God for that exothermic reaction. So right now it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, is that it's converting the metallic lead back to litharge, and it's getting dissolved into the cupel. And I can see that dark rim over here starting to move off to the side. So it looks like with the MAP gas and the exothermic reaction of the metallic lead converting back to litharge, that we got an open cupel. So here we go. Yeah, I think we got it beat this time. I think that crust is going to dissolve off there and go off to the side. So that's the nice thing about those big Maybor cupels, is that you can have not the perfect conditions and it'll still work because you got such a large cupel. But then again, we got a pretty good sized prill on there too. We got a prill on there that's twice as big as you could do on a conventional thing. But it looks good. Looks like it's working all right. We got an open cupel. Crust is moved off to the side. Looks like we got her beat this time. There's just so much gold in there that it's really hard to keep it the temperature to where it'll stay open. So anyhow, I'm gonna go get me a respirator on, and then I'll come back and we'll get a little better. We'll see if we can get close enough as this thing goes and get some close-up shots. But anyway, at least it's staying open now. And the new MAP gas rated kilns are nice, because if you get into this situation, you go ahead and get that MAP gas going there, and that's going to save us this time. But yeah, it's working really, really good right now. Flames opened up. Metallic lead converting back to litharge. Starting to crawl up the edges of the cupel. Everything looks good. So, hang on. I'll get a respirator on where I can get a little closer, and I'll see if I can get that camera down there and let you see that cupeling thing a little closer. There's a lot of heat coming off there though, and that's pretty tough on my camera. So anyhow, hang on, I'll see what I can do for you. I'll get back to you. Hi guys, we're back. So, anyhow, I finished it out, and I had the microphone unplugged when I was showing you that process taking place there. Otherwise, all you can hear is the torches. So anyhow, hi guys, I'm back. Sorry for cutting this thing a little bit short. Anyhow, in the bottom of the cupel here, I knocked that loose and I cleaned it up a little bit. What we ended up with was a really nice button of gold right now. It's got a little bit of crust on it and everything. I need to clean it up better. But I got to kind of cut this short right at the moment because my girlfriend called me during this and said her son's roommate, who lives in New Mexico, came back from New York about a week ago, and he tested positive for COVID-19. So she's all freaking out because their son's probably got it, and good God. Anyhow, guys, Mad Max stuff here. Everybody stay safe, stay healthy, and hopefully I'll be getting back to you. Take care.